morning. So what I'm presenting today is a concept for a dashboard that we intend to test within our company. And it's a dashboard related to the last planner system and how it works. It's a concept, as I said, and but it's one very important thing about this approach that I think differs somewhat from quite a lot of the matrix discussions we have had on this conference and also last year, and that is that it has surprised me that when looking at dashboard approaches regarding to the last planner system, almost none of them are actually dashboards for the last planners. They are dashboards for management. So what we're trying to do now is actually making a dashboard for the last planners themselves in order to manage their own project and their own process. And in our case, in our company, the last planners are not superintendents or foremen, they are actually crew leaders and workers themselves. So this is a dashboard meant for these people to manage their own process. So it's a continuous improvement thing. And I think that's a very important point to reason about who all this matrix and dashboard thinking is actually for. We have been inspired by different inputs. The first one is, of course, visual management, because this is obviously a visual management tool. This also means that this dashboard is bound to be contextual, because visual management is always going on in a specific situation, meaning that the things you make visual should relate to this context. So this is contextual. So what we're trying to do here is, on the one hand, to propose a scheme, and on the other hand, something that can be contextual in the details. The point two here is, of course, this ongoing discussion on matrix within IGLC. Third is also an IGLC topic, the topics of flow and waste, because this is underlying what we are looking at here is how to manage flow increase and waste reduction processes. Then we call our dashboard a balanced dashboard. So we're inspired also by Kaplan and Norton back in the 90s. They presented their concept of a balanced scorecard. That's more of a for companies, a business thing. But their approach of balancing the dashboard or the scorecard, I think, is very important. Making it holistic, not just going into some specific details, but covering the whole process. And the last inspiration is that we see that VDC has sort of made quantitative measuring more of a passion, so to speak. So we're sort of going into that more than we did some years ago. So those are the inspirations we have had. The requirements then for this dashboard is because, remember, it's to be used by the last planners. It has to be simple, of course. It has to focus on some few important topics. It has to be intuitive. Quite a lot of this matrix we see, they are more for researchers and academics. They are not intuitive. You must have a PhD to understand some of them, I would say. That's not that they're not good, but they have other qualities. It has to be continually updated. It has to provide what we call at a glance overview. That's this holistic thing again. The scorecard being balanced. And that's the last one. To balance the overview over the entire process from the last planner's point of view. So what we're proposing, this is rather simple actually, but what we're proposing is to have three sections in this dashboard. And the first one is the planning process, simply because planning is the main strategy to productivity in our type of production. Planning is the main approach to increase productivity and increase quality in our total production. So that must be there. Then it's the production flow itself. How does production flow? And the third part is what's coming out of it. And we have to have all these three perspectives on it. While some of the things we see only, for example, focus on how the last plan or the planning process is working. We want to focus on it all. We have quite some discussion on some of the matrix in the paper, some back and forth, but I won't go into that here because that's I think not the main topic of the paper actually. But the matrix interested people in the audience could have a look at it, I think. Maybe I could go into one thing about production flow that I would like to stress at this point, and that is that flow is something we talk much about, but not always understand what is actually good flow. So in this paper we based on something we understood some years ago, that good flow actually is two things. It's the throughput and it's the smoothness of the process. It's throughput and smoothness. If you have a smooth going flow, but almost no throughput at all, nothing is coming out of it, but it's smooth and even like this, you won't call it good flow. You just won't do it. And on the other hand, if you have a process with a huge throughput, but it stops and goes and has no smoothness, you won't call it good flow either. So good flow, as we see it, is a combination of throughput and smoothness. So we want in this dashboard to address both of them. So this is the specific dashboard we intend to test out in the next 1 or 2 years. It has 6 metrics on it. On the planning side, it's simply PPC, but it is PPC with a goal of 100%. We have a discussion on that in the paper. We think that if you don't go for 100% of PPC, we can't use it in this kind of paper, in this kind of dashboard, because we can't communicate with people. You have a PPC of 85. Is that good? Is it poor? Whatever. It doesn't make any meaning. And there are other arguments too. So we go for a PPC of 100 here. When it comes to the production flow, we have 3 measures here. First is simply to measure the amount of direct work, indirect work, and time losses. And that can be measured actually through self-assessment. In our working crew, that can be done very successfully, I would think. And this, of course, is a measure of waste. The second measure here is half the flow perspective. Here we intend to measure deviations between handovers between trades, being a measure on the smoothness of the flow. Because if we have problems in the handovers between trades, that's not a smooth thing. Then it stops and goes. And the third one is the safety measure we have come up with at this point, and that's tidiness on the construction site. Because accidents or near misses or something of the sort, it doesn't work on this level. Because there are far too few accidents on each construction site in our urban environment, and near misses. If you report many of them, that's a good thing. It needn't be a bad thing and so on. So near misses is not a good metric here. But tidiness is obviously connected both with safety, but also with productivity. And on the outcome side, we intend to measure 2 things. It's the forecast on the total time. That's also a throughput measurement, and it's a forecast on the total cost. And total cost here is the working hours. It's a forecast on the total amount of working hours on the job. So that's what we intend to do. And my last slide is just to say what we intend to test in our study coming up now. And that's what you can see here. We hope to get some some experience with the overall structure of the dashboard, how the metrics work, how well they complement one each other, because that's the entire thing about the dashboard, that the metrics should complement one each other, how it should be presented, and how it will be used in everyday production planning and control using the growth planning system. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much. Questions?
How the dashboard should be presented and how you take engage the master planners in the lab to use the dashboard and to improve their performance using the dashboard. I'm telling this because we are trying to do something quite similar in Brazil and we are using gamification technique in order to engage the workers in these metrics and to display all the information.
The way we think about it, quite of these metrics, they are actually produced by the last planners themselves, because they come up with the data. For example, the measurements on time losses and so on, it's data from each and every worker. So our intent is to use it in the planning meetings, not external. This is to be used in the planning process itself, in the different meetings, using the last planning system. That's the way we think about it. Because if it doesn't make any sense there, it doesn't make any sense, because that's where the planning is going on, and that's the process we want to empower.
So, I used to work for an animal contractor, and we created a system similar to what we're proposing. And the best metric that we had was constraint removal. So the crews really liked that we were collecting data about the constraints, and we could use with the other crews, hey, we're walking away, or things like that, and we would negotiate with the GC. And I was wondering if you consider, like, what kind of metrics would you consider?
It might very well so that we would like to include that, but the way we have seen it at this point is that is what they're actually discussing in every meeting. So the question is if they need a metric for it, because that's what they actually discuss in their planning meetings. So that's so. Yeah. So just to put this very clear, I'm not going to defend any of these specific metrics, because these are the ones we are going to test out. If I'm to defend something, that's the structure of the dashboard. Yeah, I would guess there are probably some 20 or 30 good metrics that could be used. I think our main point is that we have to limit this to 6 or something, and it might also very well be so that we can use different metrics in different projects, because this can actually be set up in each and every project.
So I'm always concerned whenever I hear people say that the goal is to reach 100% PPC, because I do see people, trade partners, who will game the system and they will undercommit themselves to achieve that 100%. Rather, I I think this is a very good debate in LCI as well, IGLC, is the goal 100%. I'm of the group that says I think the goal is to have increasing trends of PPC, and if there's a drop in the PPC, if you can correlate that with the general contractor saying to the trade partners, okay, we've been doing very well, I'm going to challenge ourselves. And if there's a drop, okay, there's a drop in PPC, but then let's continue going and continue to increase the PPC. So I'm concerned that I just wanted to express that concern.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that concern. But we have made some other arguments that point to the other conclusion. And let me stress that it doesn't make meaning gaming this PPC, because this is PPC measured by the people for the people themselves. It's not management whipping them for a PPC. This is their own feedback on their own production. So if they want to fool themselves, that's up to them, but they're not fooling anybody else than themselves.
But to balance that,
Yeah.
you keep the 100%, which is okay with me, as long as maybe I would suggest to put something in there about the ability of each of the trade partners to contribute to the regular meeting of the key milestones.
There are
If they, as long as we're hitting milestones, we're fine, and the mini milestones.
There are three main arguments in the paper on this PPC issue. Maybe I should just come up with one of them. And that is that we see planning as giving reliable promises. And if you have given a promise, you should only have one goal, and that's to keep your promise. And that's the 100% PPC, to keep your promise. So that's one of the main reasons we have for looking at 100%.
Next question. So thank you for your excellent presentation.
You can have this for free, so you won't need to be nervous.
Thank you. So when we last year tried out a planning software, a lot of us 360 planning, it gave us a lot of metrics about planning. And so we got PPC graphs, and they sparked a conversation. But the one that started more of a conversation was the root cause graph, so you can see what actually led to failure in following planning. Just wondering why, well, two questions. Why root causes is not one of the metrics you're concerned?
We're actually discussing that in the paper, and the reason is that root causes are multi-dimensional. So what we think is that they should use the dashboard to discuss root causes,
Okay, so
but the root causes cannot be on the dashboard.
Okay.
That's how we look upon it.
Okay.
But one of the important uses of the dashboard is to discuss root causes for why some of these metrics are not going the way they should go.
So I would suggest from our experience that root causes visible very close to the PPC metric. My other question was that we also were given PPC per trade, which can be very dangerous used in the wrong way, but very useful used in the right way. And we had a conversation about it. Is that something that was something you discussed as well?
We haven't discussed it, but I totally agree. So.
All right, I want to thank you all for an excellent session. Thank you.